During your confirmation hearing before this committee on January 10th, you committed to doing a top-to-bottom assessment of DHS. Is that correct?
I did.
And have you finished this assessment?
No.
When do you plan to finish it?
I don't know.
You don't have a goal for finishing it?
I have a general goal.
What is that date?
Well, one of the things I'll task my new deputy, that was confirmed yesterday, that she'll take that on.
Have you given her a date for when that assessment will be complete?
No, because when she wasn't confirmed, I didn't deal with her as a deputy. I didn't want to presume confirmation by the Senate.
So you do not have a goal for your department on when that assessment will be completed?
She and I will discuss the goal.
And have you read the, as part of the assessment that needs to be done, have you read the report issued by the Inspector General, John Roth, that was issued just 4 months ago, November 7th, 2016, entitled Major Management Performance Challenges Facing the Department of Homeland Security?
I'm aware of the report, yeah.
Have you read it?
I'm aware of it. And
so you've not read it?
Executive summary.
Okay. In the report, the IG says, quote, this year we are presenting a broader picture of management challenges by highlighting those we have repeatedly identified over several years. We remain concerned about the systemic nature of these challenges, some of which span multiple administrations and department leadership. Do you agree that many of these challenges are systemic and deeply rooted in the department?
Well, of course, that was pre-Kelly, and it was Jay Johnson.
It was 4 months ago that report was issued. Do you agree with the statement found by the IG based on his analysis of your department?
That was pre-Kelly. I am committed.
I'm sorry, pre-Kelly meaning yourself?
I wasn't in the job yet.
Okay.
As I've committed to the committee before and to the Congress in general, we're going to take a top-to-bottom look at how we're organized and how we can do business better, and that includes how we do the leadership functions.
Are you aware, sir, that on March 22nd, union officials and leaders from both ICE and Border Patrol appeared before this committee? During that hearing, Chris Crane, who is the National ICE Council President, said, and I will quote, there is a toxic and failed management culture. He went on to say, quote, a good old boy network exists within your department. He went on to say officers are, quote, tripping over managers in the field, and then said also that the agency has outdated and, quote, practically no policies in place. Are you aware that that is a sentiment among leadership in your department? Certainly
that's the sentiment throughout, really, DHS, in terms of how DHS was run for the last 8 years. Going forward, it won't be run like that anymore.
And how
once I determine how we're going to change the leadership approach.
So you are going to come up with a plan for fixing this for the 230,000 people in your department? And is this a priority for you?
It is.
And at the same hearing, both Mr. Crane and the National Border Patrol President Brandon Judd spoke of an extensive morale issue at DHS, which is also reflected in the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey, which is published by OPM. Are you aware that DHS ranks as the last among large agencies in terms of its morale?
That was certainly the case under the Obama administration, but we're changing that already.
And you're going to change that within what time period for your department of 230,000? Oh, it's changed.
It's already changing.
It is changing. Okay. And in regards to your top-to-bottom assessment, has your assessment included looking into the morale issues at the agency and putting in place programs and initiatives to actually improve the morale?
It's what I do, yes.
And can you provide us with a list of the policies that you've instituted to improve morale at the department?
My leadership is the start point, and we'll continue to look at ways to improve the morale. One of the issues most focused on by the workforce since over the last 8 years that affected their morale was an inability to do their jobs. Now that we've opened the aperture in terms of the amount of work that they're allowed to do, I'm deflecting a lot of outside influences into the workforce so they can do their jobs.
So, but my question to you, with all due respect, my question to you is, what have you put in place to turn the morale around in this department, and the morale which is at the lowest of any large federal agency, and the condition has existed throughout it appears, the life of the agency, and certainly has passed through many administrations?
Under the Obama administration, the morale suffered terribly.
So what plans have you put in place, sir?
My leadership.
So you're saying by virtue of you being there, morale will now change?
By virtue of the fact, the greatest impact in raising the morale in the last 90 days or so has been that the workforce now is allowed to do their job.
And that would be, they're now unshackled, is that correct?
They're allowed to do their job as the professionals they are.
And the administration has proposed tripling the current number of ICE agents and increasing the number of Border Patrol agents by 25%, in addition to requesting a $4 billion to begin the construction of a wall, which has been discussed. Are you in support of actually bringing on these new agents before you have repaired the damage that has existed in your agency?
It's simultaneous, sure.
Okay, Senator Harris, we're going to give you an opportunity.
Sure, I'll go through round two. Thank you, Chairman.
Senator Harris for 5 minutes.
I appreciate that. Secretary Kelly, I represent a state of almost 39 million people, which is also a state with the largest number of immigrants documented and undocumented of any state in this country. And they have a right to have an understanding, a clear understanding of the policy priorities of your department. At March 8th confirmation hearing for Elaine Duke, I asked her how the 7 enforcement categories from your February 20th memo would be prioritized, and she answered that the priorities are listed in descending order. Do you agree with that?
No.
And so what is the, can you please rank then the 7 factors and the priority among them?
Those 7 factors allow the ICE folks to make their decision as to who they will develop a target package on and then go try and apprehend. But they're not in descending order, they're just those are the categories.
So what has been your direction to the folks on the ground about what the priorities should be, understanding that they, like all law enforcement agencies, have limited resources and a very important charge? Are you not giving them any direction around priorities within the 7 criteria?
The direction they have is the start point is illegal status, and then something from the priorities. But we're not going to go after, as an example, all the murderers, and then we get all the very, very serious criminals, and then once we get all of them, go after the next and the next and the next. They can go after an individual if they, according to the law, if they are on the list because they're illegal, and then something.
So, sir, among the
Generally
7
speaking.
categories you have is number 1, convicted of any criminal offense, and obviously there's no doubt that especially if someone has been convicted of a serious and violent felony, they should be apprehended and they should be dealt with. Second is that anyone charged with a criminal offense, so then there has not been a finding of guilt. The third is they've committed an act which would constitute a chargeable criminal offense, so they've not even been charged with the offense. The list goes on to number 7, or in the judgment of immigration officers otherwise pose a risk to public safety or national security. How are you training the folks on the ground to exercise their judgment as it relates to factor 3 or factor 7 as an example?
They're already trained, and they, through that direction down through the leadership of ICE down to the local agents in charge and whatnot, they train them to execute that policy.
So as a former manager of a very large law enforcement organization, the California Department of Justice, I am well aware that you cannot lead a department just from the top down. And it is critical that you communicate the policies of leadership to everyone at every stage, including those at the lowest level who, in your agency, as in most law enforcement agencies, have wide discretion to exert and use their authority. I would like to know what specifically you are doing to train those people, and I would like a copy of what you are doing that is beyond the conversations that you have had with managers, but actually what policies you have put in place to train those folks on how they should exercise the discretion that you've given them as it relates to this expanded list of folks that can be contacted by the folks in your agency. I would like to have a list submitted, sir, and if you would agree to give us a written copy of the training that you are instituting in your department to train folks about how they should exercise their discretion.
We'll certainly provide you the policy statements, and from that, the training takes place. Again, they're already highly trained individuals.
Well, we've already discussed how they have the lowest morale of any federal agency, and that
Under the
that by
Obama administration.
Okay. So, sir, given the extent and depth of the problems that exist at DHS, and that we have so far received no assessment or any program that you have or plan that you have to address these issues, how can you justify such massive increases in hiring and resources? And should the American public really be expected to give you billions of dollars and provide billions of dollars to your agency when, on blind faith, in spite of the fact that there has been no clear change of direction or course beyond the fact that you were appointed to lead the agency?
Senator Chuck Grassley, let's listen in.
On the nomination of
Mr.
Judge
Chairman.
Brett Kavanaugh
Mr. Chairman.
to serve as Associate Justice.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be
Supreme Court
recognized
of the
for a
United
question
States.
before we proceed. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be recognized to ask a question before we proceed. The committee received just last night, less than 15 hours ago, 42,000 pages of documents that we have not had an opportunity to review or read or analyze.
You're out of order. I'll proceed.
We cannot possibly move forward, Mr. Chairman,
I
with this
extend a
hearing.
very warm
We have
welcome
not
to
been
Judge
given an
Kavanaugh,
opportunity to have a meaningful
his wife,
hearing on
Ashley.
this nominee.
Their two daughters.
Mr. Chairman,
Their
I
extended
agree with my
family and
colleague,
friends.
Senator Harris. Mr. Chairman,
Judge
we
Kavanaugh's
received
many law
42,000
clerks
documents that we haven't
and
been able
everyone else
to
joining us
review last
today.
night, and we believe this hearing
I
should be
know this is an
postponed.
exciting day for all of you here, and you're rightly proud
Mr. Chairman,
of
if
Judge.
we cannot be recognized, I move to adjourn.
The American people.
Chairman, I move
get
to adjourn.
hear directly from Judge Kavanaugh later this afternoon.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn. Mr. Chairman, we have been denied real access to the documents we need to advise.
Chairman,
and
regular
defend,
order is called for.
which turns this hearing into a charade and a mockery of our norms.
Well-
and Mr. Chairman, I therefore move to adjourn this hearing.
Okay.
This is a mockery and a travesty of justice. This is a travesty of justice. We will not go back. Cancel Brett Kavanaugh. Adjourn the hearing.
Command order. Chuck. The motion to adjourn would have been
We're not in executive session.
Mr. Chairman, I ask for a roll call vote on my motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn. I ask for a roll call vote.
We're not in executive session. We will continue as planned.
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized, sir? Mr. Chairman, I appeal to the chair to recognize myself or one of my colleagues.
You're out of order.
Mr. Chairman, I appeal to be recognized on your sense of decency and integrity. Even the documents you have requested, Mr. Chairman, even the ones that you said, the limited documents you have requested, this committee has not received. And the documents we have, you, sir, have labeled
I'd ask
committee
for regular
confidential.
order.
They should be transparent. This committee, sir, is a violation of even the values I've heard you talk about time and time again, the ideals that we should have. What is the rush? What are we trying to hide by not having the documents out front? What is with the rush? What are we hiding by not letting those documents come out? Sir, this committee is a violation of the values that we as a committee have striven for, transparency. We are rushing through this process in a way that is unnecessary. And I appeal for the motion to at least be voted on.
Mr. Chairman.
At least let's have a vote, because when we wrote you a letter on August 24th asking to have a meeting on this issue, you denied us even the right to meet. So here we are having a meeting. Let's at least debate this issue. Let's at least call this for a vote. I appeal to your sense of fairness and decency, your commitments that you've made to transparency. This violates what you have even said and called for, sir. You've called for documents, you yourself, limited documents. We thought there should be more. We have not received the documents that you have even called for. So, sir, based upon your own principles, your own values, I call for at least to have a debate or a vote on these issues and not for us to rush through this process.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator-
Mr. Chairman, I've
Senator,
heard calls for
I'd like to
regular
respond.
order.
I'd like to respond to Senator Booker. Senator Booker, I think that I respect very much a lot of things you do, but you spoke about my decency and you spoke about my decency and integrity, and I think you are taking advantage of my decency and integrity. So.